My husband, 36M, blindsided me, 40F, and left suddenly. So my husband, 36M, and I, 40F, have been together for 5 years, and in those years our marriage has been amazing. Of course there are moments where we'd bicker, but it wasn't anything out of the ordinary. I was very happily married and thought my marriage was rock solid. We've been through challenging times but always weathered anything that came our way. This December I really felt like we were in a good place and there was no drama at all when on December 23rd I noticed a funny tone in my husband's voice when I asked him a question. So I asked him if he was alright and he tells me he wants to move out. Like what? Just hours before we are cuddling in bed and being playful, and this came out of nowhere, so obviously I had a meltdown because I was so blindsided. So fast forward through Christmas and I barely make it through the holidays as I need to pretend everything is okay for everyone. I ended up in the hospital multiple times having massive panic attacks and heart issues. I was unable to eat, drink or sleep. It's like I'm not even in my body anymore and I'm living someone else's life. I'm not someone who has ever had panic attacks. On December 27th he moved out into a room he rented in a shared house. I did all I could to treat him with grace and love as I really didn't want him to go, but decided if he left with me in anger it would be harder for him to feel like he could come back if he wanted to. I helped him pack and bought and washed his new bedding because I love him, and am apparently pathetic. We even ended up having amazing sex the day before he left too. He said my being so loving and kind about it made him feel bad, which wasn't my intention. I just love him so much and could see he's got something going on. We've spoken via text and on the phone and he's indicated to me that it has nothing to do with me and that he loves me, but that due to life stress he's lost the romantic love for me. He said he'd like to try and date me to see if we can rekindle, but then the next day he sounds less interested. So he's back and forth and all over the place, which makes it even more torturous for me. All of this came about after he came home from a trip in England for a funeral. I thought maybe he had an affair or was having one, but I'm 99.9% sure he isn't. He has a lot of work stress and my teenage son has been a huge pain in the ass, and I know a lot of the stress comes from him. My husband has always been so loving and amazing with me. A very kind person, but since he told me he was leaving he's shown me this side of him that is cruel and icy, and I have no idea what to make of it. He's not being himself at all. Unless 5 years were an act and this is who he really is. I am completely devastated and left with no closure or any idea of what is going to happen. He didn't want to separate yet as he's deciding if he wants me, I guess? He doesn't want to talk for a month so he can sort his thoughts, and that's more torture because again I have no answers and no control of the situation. I feel like I'm waiting to be executed, but I don't know when. I'd love some advice. I managed to give him all of the power as I was so heartbroken. I was doing all I could to try to bring him home, like writing, "Open me when," letters, because I was worried about him on his own because clearly something is up with him. But that probably didn't help and made me look desperate. I'm just a sentimental person and I go all out for the person I love, and it felt like it was the only way I could fight for him without being there. He's apparently felt like this for months but didn't say a word to me, so we could fix it. He also won't see a marriage counselor. I've shifted from deep grief to a hint of anger now, and I'm feeling frustrated because I don't deserve any of this at all. He could have handled things in a much more compassionate and kind way. Still, I want him back. I meant my wedding vows when I said them. Thoughts? You're his insurance policy for if his other woman doesn't work out. I'm sorry. You say you're pretty sure he isn't having an affair, but that is what his change in behavior says to me. Every single woman I've known in this situation, where their husband out of nowhere wanted to leave and just ran hot and cold on whether or not they wanted to work on things, there was always one thing they had in common. Another woman was involved. I'd bet my house he's testing the waters with someone else and is just stringing you along in case things don't work out. Regardless of whether it's that or possibly something else. You can't do this to yourself. You need to cut ties and let yourself grieve. He's not worth doing this to yourself over. The marriage is over, and you should focus on healing right now and stop letting him toy with your emotions. I'm going to veer from a lot of the comments. Stop focusing on whether he was cheating, thinking about cheating, etc. At this point, it doesn't matter. He left and you need to start getting your life together without him. Don't hire a pie. Don't go through his phone. Stop worrying so much about him. He's made his choice. You are clearly in mourning, heavy with grief. Meet with a divorce lawyer this week. Serve him divorce papers. Get yourself into therapy. Figure out your life without him. Killing yourself with the why isn't going to give you any relief. There is absolutely another woman involved. Don't be naive. There's another woman. To what extent? Don't know, but your situation is not unique. Almost every time something like that occurs, it's another woman. Start doing some digging. Check his phone, etc. But your husband behavior is extremely odd and in line with a woman being a factor of some kind. Husband, 41M, has run up $30,000 debt behind my 40F. Back, where to go from here? I have just found out that my husband has run up about $30,000 credit card debt behind my back, including $4,000 on an old card in my name. I found out when I casually ran an Experian check, found the card and rang them to say it was incorrect, and they sent me the statements. It was an old one I had used for a balance transfer 3 years ago and thought I cancelled. He did this before about 10 years ago when our eldest was a baby and promised never again, got counseling, etc. I don't know what to do next. Things hadn't been good for a while. He has been very grouchy and not really connecting with me meaningfully for a long time. He said this was due to work stress. He now says it was to do with this secret and he was scared he would lose me if I found out. He says he will pay off the card in my name first. He has a debt management charity appointment booked to get it all under control and has cut up all cards, etc. He wants to have no credit, etc. moving forwards and to pay it off as quickly as possible. We earn a similar amount and have separate finances where I transfer him money each month for my share of mortgage and bills. This all seems to be in order. It doesn't appear like any payments have gone missing here or anything, which is something. I have an appointment for legal advice this week to check on the laws in my state for my liability, etc. But he will be paying off the one in my name first, and I'll be closing it myself, of course. It's just such a massive breach of trust. Plus I've been working so hard and spending all my extra cash on improvements to this house as we were hoping to be buying a bigger one in the next couple years, whereas what the hell he's been doing with his extra cash plus credit cards I don't know. There is some spending on gadgets and gaming stuff, but he says most of it is late payment fees and interest, which is more annoying actually that he's managed it so poorly and wasted so much. I'm very frugal and hate waste of anything. I grew up in a household with no money. I think I'm still in shock, to be honest, that he did this and also that he could physically run up this debt with nothing to show for it. I'm 99.9% sure it's not gone on drugs, gambling or anything, just shitty financial management and sticking his head in the sand. I don't really know what I'm asking, maybe the questions I need to ask my solicitor. I don't know if I want to stay with him. I kind of alternate between thinking about getting my own little place with my kids, which I could afford, but it would break his and my kids' hearts if I ask him to move out, which he says he will, to be fair. Edit. Thank you everyone for helping me process this. I'm getting the info I need and will take action this week. Ask for all the statements and look through them. If he didn't buy that much and it really is late payments and such, the statements will prove that. If he is lying, cut your losses. Personally, after the second time now, if him doing this, I could no longer be with him. How do you know he won't do this again a third time in the future if he's going through hard times? The trust has been broken not just once, but twice. BS on the late fees and interest charges, more like OnlyFans. Check the statements and this is the second time. I would run for the fucking hills. He has now committed financial infidelity twice. The second time you caught him because he was literally stealing from you. Not because he came clean. Then he proceeded to justify treating you poorly for months because he was scared you would leave him. Deadpan face. Think about it this way, this situation is the accumulation of many decisions that involved spending money recklessly. Every time he swiped his card and month after month seeing a balance he couldn't pay off. When he went through your personal things in order to find your credit card. How he made sure that you wouldn't see the statements. This is months, if not years of deception. My advice is leave. To a lawyer. Get him to run off every credit card statement along with his personal bank statements. If you cannot visually see in your home, cars, etc. what all of that money went on, it's better to actually get the truth now than yet again just trust what he says. He has give you no reason to trust him, so he should not have an issue with providing a detailed overview as to where every single penny has gone, because I don't see how late payment fees etc. can account for that much money. How do I, 26F, get my husband, 30M, to understand that we should be the priority and not his mom? I just got married to my husband Jack, fake name, a few months ago, and we've been together for just under 3 years. Jack and I are both very close to our families. We've been very fortunate that our families are supportive, loving, and present in our lives. My parents have been a lot more understanding and patient about me slowly distancing myself from them as I transitioned to being in a serious relationship and then married. My Carol, fake name, on the other hand, has been having a hard time. She is a self-proclaimed boy mom, and she fits the stereotype. She's very protective and a bit possessive of her sons. There's 4 boys. My husband is the third of 4, and 3 of them are now married, all within 2 years of each other. But she's super friendly, kind, and loving to each of the new daughter-in-laws. The problem is that she's been used to being the boys' center of attention, and she's having a hard time understanding that she's not going to be the main priority anymore now that they're married. Jack has been constantly in the middle of me wanting him to prioritize me and our relationship, and Carol wanting him to be at her beck and call like he used to be. It has been a constant issue with all of the sons that are now married. The most recent and heartbreaking instance that happened was this Christmas. On Christmas Eve, we spent it at Jack's parents and had given them all of their presents then because we weren't planning on seeing them long on Christmas Day since we were going to my parents'. The next day, Jack went to go drop off some last-minute presents to his parents on Christmas Day while I was making breakfast. I didn't think he was going to be gone long, so I waited to eat breakfast so I could eat with him. He was gone for 2 hours without a word and the food had gone cold, so I called him and he said that Carol asked him to stay and open Christmas gifts. All I could say was, "What about my Christmas?" and hung up on him and cried. When he got home I laid into him how unfair it was that I had to spend my Christmas morning alone and he got to be with his parents. I told him that this can't happen again and I'm tired of not being a priority to him and that he keeps putting his mom before me when we are supposed to be the new priority. If I would have known I'd be alone in Christmas Day because he was at his mom's, I would have gone home to my parents. This is not the first time this has happened, nor has it been the first time we've had this conversation. How do I get my husband to understand that we as a couple, new family should be the priority and not his mom? Too long did not read. My husband left me alone on Christmas Day because his mom wanted him to stay. I told him how that was unacceptable but I don't think understands. How do I get him to really understand? That's not happening, lady. He'll never understand. If you knew this was an issue before, why did you marry him? Don't let him get you pregnant. At this point in your relationship, he either gets it or he doesn't. Next step is couples counseling to try and facilitate a more productive conversation. Ultimately, you shouldn't marry someone with the expectation that they will change, because they won't. Men marry women with the hope they will never change. Women marry men with the hope they will change. Invariably, they are both disappointed. Seems pretty apropos to this situation. Your husband is already married to his mother. This should have been sorted before legally tying yourself to him. If you've talked to him about this before and nothing's changed, then it's time for you to decide if you want to live the rest of your life coming in second place. My husband is incredibly close with his parents. It used to really irritate me, and we did have to have some discussions. You should never be left without a word on Christmas morning. Very valid. That said, after 10 years I have come to greatly appreciate my husband's relationship with his family. I look around at all these broken people and broken relationships and I'm so glad to be in a village of people who support and care about one another. Being part of a close village also means having to deal with some level of annoyance. I, F23, don't know if my boyfriend, M26, is going to be a good father. Today me and my boyfriend were laying in bed together, joking around and laughing. We were switching between topics and he pulled out his phone to show me videos. One was of a man and his child and our conversation gravitated to the conversation of kids. I asked him, what if I was pregnant? Expecting a cute or simple answer, but instead he said, probably hope for an abortion. I didn't say anything and just looked at him. He continued with, no, I'm joking. I'd probably just off myself instead. I think I felt my heart break in real time because I am pregnant. We've had the kids conversation many times before. We agreed we wanted to start trying and he is very well aware I am no longer on the depot shot and he doesn't use condoms anymore. We're financially stable and just moved into a bigger place with a lot of space for our future family. I don't know how to wrap my head around what he said. He's never made jokes about stuff like that before and I don't know if he was joking or completely serious. It's worrying. I was planning on telling him soon with a surprise plan, but hearing that concerns me. If he never wanted kids it would have been easier to just tell me. I've never been one to want kids. I grew up being the girl who always claimed she'd never have kids. When I got with my boyfriend my stance was the same. I started our relationship with the no kids thing. He agreed with it at first, but as our relationship progressed he wanted kids. I had a change in mind about kids and decided a family is something I wanted too. How do I even go forward with this? Update. Sorry for grammar mistakes, this is a quick update. To answer quite a few people, I'm already pregnant. It's been confirmed via at-home test and a doctor visit. I'm almost at the 2-month mark. Lots of people were concerned about my personal situation and I just want to let it be said I work, make more than enough to support myself and have close family and friends nearby for safety measures. I took the suggestion to write my post down as well as added a few things I wanted to say, but I really couldn't get what I wanted to say out without almost crying. I'm a little bee. I know, so I made my boyfriend read what was written. He cried and I can honestly say I didn't expect it. He said the comments were jokes but it had a lot to do with his own mental health and said he's been going through some dark thoughts. Not going into detail, just gonna say we'll be working through his mental health together. He stopped crying after I handed him the test and from his reaction I can say kids are something he's still happy and excited about. We cried and talked about our situation. Things have quieted down now. Me and him will be going for a checkup in 2 weeks. I want to say thanks to a lot of the supportive people in the comments. I wish I could have done what a lot of others said too and just confronted him directly, but I'm mainly glad I was able to get answers and a well-received reaction. We plan on telling our family and friends soon as well. Have a conversation. I'm not sure why there's confusion when you say you've agreed to start trying yet you've asked him about getting pregnant as a hypothetical and he's saying he's want an abortion to off himself. That makes no sense if you've literally agreed to try for a baby. I'm confused. So you had a conversation about having children. You both knowingly stopped using contraception, and now suddenly he's mortified by the idea of you becoming pregnant? Did he have a sex education? Does he know how human reproduction works? What did he think was going to happen? If you can't have a serious conversation with him about this, you shouldn't be having his baby. I should have replied, darling, we have stopped using condoms and you know I am off depot. Why are we doing this then? Why are you trying for a baby with a boyfriend at 23? You spent your whole life not wanting kids, suddenly change your mind, and think 23 with a boyfriend who was a significant other not that interested is good plan. How would you have a discussion about no longer using birth control and having kids without any other discussion about your future together? Maybe don't have kids. You're young, unmarried, you're both immature.